If he legally owned a gun, we couldn't do anything about arresting him for having a gun because you used the word legally. But we could certainly follow up. We could certainly go to visit him, whether he legally owns a gun or not. If we think a red flag goes up and that there's something not right, and we think that this person has a propensity to do such a horrific act, I think police all over this nation need to be empowered to take that person and medically deliver him to a medical or her to a medical facility where they can be examined.
Well, that was Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel addressing a controversial component of legal gun ownership in light of this deadly high school shooting. The suspect did legally purchase an AR-15 that he allegedly used to murder 17 innocent people, despite the fact that he showed lots of signs of mental illness. Should law enforcement be able to legally intervene in a situation like that? With me now, Steve Rogers, former FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force agent and current Donald J. Trump for President Advisory Board member, along with Trey Slayton. He's a criminal defense attorney. Troy, it's been a while. I'd like to start with you. We all obviously know the constitutional and other legal ramifications and perhaps hurdles, but when you hear Sheriff Israel put it out there and like that, you just got to believe if someone is exhibiting these signs, why not somehow find a way for the police to go and disarm these people?
Well, we can't have the police, no matter how well-intentioned they are, violating people's constitutional rights. Although the Second Amendment is a disfavored constitutional right to many on the political left, it's still a constitutional right. And the police, like the sheriff suggested, can absolutely pay a visit to anyone they want. Just like the Girl Scouts, they can go knock on someone's door, and if the person wants to talk to them, they can. But a person also has a constitutional right to not open their door.
But what if the person opens the door, Troy, and they are exhibiting these sort of signs that are clearly red flags? And then what are the options then?
Sure. So if a person appears like they're a danger to themselves or others, then the police can do what is normally called a 5150 hold, where they're taken involuntarily for a 48-hour examination, and mental health professionals can examine them. And if those mental health professionals feel that the person is such a danger, then they can petition a court for a longer hold and a longer examination.
Right.
And if that person is then adjudged mentally ill, then the law kicks in, sure, and they may be a prohibited person for gun ownership.
You know, Steve, FBI coming under a lot of pressure. There was apparently some sort of social media post about this with the name Nicholas Cruz. It's unclear if it was this particular suspect or not, but certainly there were visible signs, and it feels like the headlines are now starting to come out. The FBI dropped the ball again. I'm not sure how you feel about that. I'd like to know, and also, do you think as a law enforcement veteran, there should be more leeway for law enforcement to protect Americans?
A few things, Charles. I personally believe they dropped the ball. Now, I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback, but I could tell you, I would have directed my officers to get on the internet, to get on Facebook, put the name Nicholas Cruz in. You don't know what's going to come up. But what would have come up? What we see now on the internet, what we see now that he posted. And I would have sent my officers right to the house. And as your prior guest said, you can't go in and arrest people, but you could certainly begin an inquiry. And I've always said to officers, ask to go in the house, sit in the kitchen, look around. You might see a gun. You might see evidence there that could give you enough to get a warrant, a search warrant. That's number one. The other question you had is what police need to do. They do need the authority, Charles. And we see it all the time. The cops know their neighborhood. They know their towns. You know who the troublemakers are and who may have some mental issues. We have to have the ability to say, hey, look, based on our judgment, just like a doctor's judgment, although we're not doctors, but we know enough that if a person is in a state where they're going to hurt themselves or hurt someone else, we should be able to take them in for help. And that's not the case every day.
What about the criticism that that's too much power to entrust in law enforcement? And what would the checks and balances be?
Well, I would say this. We have to weigh, well, what is the end of this, all right? What are the means to the end? I trust law enforcement. I trust officers who are out there. They know their communities. I trust they're going to make the right judgment. And you know, Charles, in the area of solutions, the president nailed it today when he said God, faith, and church. He mentioned those things in family. We have to really, as a nation, look towards bringing the clergy, great clergy, into this conversation, right, to help the police and everyone else.
Captain America Steve Rogers, Troy, thank you both very, very much. Now it's back to square one on immigration.